is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen today. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that in advance, because at the end of the day, you don't want to hide greatness, because that's just what we don't do on this show. So, hey, go and spread the word. Let everybody know what we got going on over here. And if you don't know what we got going on, you can check us out on other platforms as well. Roku, on your Fire Stick. We're there, right there for you. We're right in your living room. We're on your mobile device. We're on your laptop. So you can't run from us. So embrace it. Embrace what we got going over here on ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Got a lot of good stuff on board for today, T. When you think about it, it seems like Marcus Mariota out here hating on his teammate. We'll determine whether or not that may be a little extreme. And there is some hating going on with the rankings in ESPN, Trey Young. We know how national media gets when it comes to Atlanta Hawks. We'll discuss that. And last but not least, and for the culture, T, Ime Udoka. Bruh. Come on, bro. That's all we got. We'll talk about that. But first, T, Marcus Mariota, out there on the West Coast, he's at home, he's comfortable and everything. And, he was talking about Kyle Pitts. Obviously, that's been the hot topic of this week, about him getting targets, whether he's the primary receiver, primary option, or the first option in this particular play call. Arthur Smith is answering questions all week, right? So, when you sent me this clip, it got my mind churning a little bit. You can maybe tell me if I'm a little bit off, but we'll play it for the people. Is Marcus Mariota hating on Kyle Pitts?
Constantly, we're doing what we can, and sometimes the ball goes the other way. And with that being said, depending on the week, I think as he continues to grow, I think the ball will find him.
The ball, as he continues to grow, the ball will find him. Wait a minute. This is a Pro Bowler, Marcus Mariota. I don't think I've heard Marcus Mariota's name in the same sentence, Pro Bowler. And if I have, it would have been one time. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a historic rookie season for Kyle Pitts. So what growth are you referencing there? This is a guy who went in the offseason and pretty much had two things he was working on: his blocking and his route running. The end. So when we're looking at it, we're seeing balls that are shorted, not just to KP, but balls that are shorted to receivers. And when you think about it,
or overthrown. Yeah, we've definitely seen that.
Now that's another one, Jarvis. Yes. And
overthrow 6'5" receivers is not good. Sorry.
Exactly. So it's right, because everybody else would, when I think about Matt Ryan, for example, when he knew he had that 6'6" guy, he would throw it up to, hey, go get it, but not over him, like go 2 yards and go get it. No, just up here and go get it, because I know even if there are two defenders on you, I trust that you can get up there and get the ball. And see, that's another little sneak point. If the word has been coming out, whether it's Mariota or maybe Arthur Smith, and I get it, you still got to rock with your quarterback, and your quarterback still has to make sure that he's saying the right things. Right. But the bottom line is this: you can't really blame it on double teams, because George Kittle gets double teamed all the time, Travis Kelce gets double teamed all the time, just kind of naming some of the more prominent tight ends, if you will, and they find their way out of it. And I feel like Kyle Pitts has grown and matured already to be able to do that, if the ball was thrown where it needed to be thrown. So if you're saying that this is a product of him growing and the ball will find him, well, 13 of 27 plays, Jarvis, were designed for KP. And yet, he only had 2 catches in both games. So is that really a KP growing issue, or is that a challenge in that the person who was throwing to him last year that got him to the Pro Bowl is no longer under center?
You know what, T, we're not talking about Desmond Ridder. Last time I checked, we ain't talking about a rookie quarterback. We talking about a dude who been in the NFL for 7 years. And, you know, in my recent film study, there were some opportunities for Marcus Mariota to get Pitts the football.
That's
like
right.
whether or not he was the primary read or you know or not. You know what I'm saying? So those some of the things that like he doesn't have to be the primary receiver or primary target on a play to get the rock. Like because at the end of the day, quarterbacks go through progressions. And we talked about this on this show. Marcus Mariota doesn't really do that. He locks in on guys. And I'm looking at the film and going back into that Jalen Ramsey pick. Yes. Like he had his eyes on Brian Edwards for the entire time. He was locked in, and they were in a 3D coverage, and on Jalen Ramsey had that deep third right on the outside. So if I see Kyle Pitts is running the wheel route to that deep third, it's got to be a reason why he ended up picking up the football. It's because the quarterback's eyes drew him that way. So all of those things that, you know, we just talked about, right? And add in the fact that you're saying what somebody needs to do in order to grow. Like, I'm not saying the dude is against criticism or you know, constructive criticism, excuse me. Sure. But, like, it's very clear what's going on here. Like, let's keep the main thing. Like, dude, you need to figure out a way to get the man to rock. Primary target, you know, first read or whatever. Like, regardless of any of that, you need to figure out a way to get that man to rock because the dude is a playmaker, and we got a dude that, you know, that was drafted in 2008 last year that was able to figure it out with no other options at receiver, essentially. So and we know Drake London's out here this year. So with less options, Matt Ryan figured out a way to get him to rock. And we weren't even talking about primary targets last year. So, I think, Marcus, you might need to chill, bro. But T, I think one of the things that we also have to talk about is the Braves. They lose to the Washington Nationals in a day game, which they have struggled for the entire season. I don't think no one has tried to figure that out. You know, stats. Baseball has stats for everything. There isn't a stat to explain why the Braves don't play well at businessman specials. Like we just can't figure that bad boy out. They lose 3-2, and I think the main reason why that's the case is not because of Bryce Elder, because you know it went 5 in the third, you know, and only gave up 1 run. But in you know in the 8th inning when Michael Harris doing Michael Harris things. He had the single, and Austin Riley was coming around third base. Wash was waving him in, and then he kind of paused at a second. And I think that you know that aggressive base running kind of bit the Braves in the behind because at the end of the day, I understand being aggressive, but if you got Austin Riley coming around that corner and he looked like he wasn't going to beat that throw, I think his Wash's second thought should have been his first thought, if by me, from what I saw.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where there's enough blame to kind of go around. Because
it is.
Jesse Chavez crapped the bed by giving away a 2-run home run in the 8th inning, so there's that. And then, like you said, there was an opportunity. Michael Harris II put you in position because that was a deep single, right?
Yes.
So clearly somebody possibly could have gotten home, but I don't know that Austin Riley would have been that person. You might have wanted to leave him where he was. Now, if William Contreras was in that position already, sure. That's a guy you wave home. I'm not sure you wave Austin Riley home in that situation.
He can scoot a little bit.
Clearly, Uncle Ronnie realized that a split second later, like, maybe that's not the way to go in that situation. But what it brought to mind for me was this. We are now down to 13 games left in the regular season. And everyone keeps saying, oh, Braves, they're going to be all good. They're going to be, and maybe they will. Maybe they will end up getting a 5th straight division crown. But when we see these miscues, these are the types of miscues that will get you either a wild card spot or they will get you tossed out of the postseason earlier than you wanted to because the other team is over there executing well. So we chuckled the last couple of weeks about the Mets metting again. Well, now they're back up trending. Now they are on a 6-7 game win streak, and you're heading up to Queens. So those little miscues, whether that's at your third base coach or whether that is what Jesse Chavez did, or as we talked about before, like Matt Olson going up and down, and having some defensive miscues yesterday. And we also talked about the order. Sure, Matt Olson, you made a comment a couple nights ago that, man, when the whole order comes together, you guys are going to be lethal. But how many games have we seen top to bottom of the order that it's working across not just the game, Jarvis, but across an entire series? So I just feel like, yeah, you guys had a conversation. Brian Sticker said Tuesday they had a conversation about base running. So why did we then see that just 24 hours later? Those are the kind of things that concern me, or whether or not you were already packed up on Delta Airlines on your Delta flight to Philly when you really needed to close out on the Nets, thinking, it's just the Nats. Well, guess what? The Nats cost you a game, and it cost you the ability to at least tie the Mets in the division once they crapped and got shut out by the Brewers. So that's what concerns me, those little pieces as you get to the final stretch and whether or not you'll really be able to close the deal.
And that's what you look for with, the Braves. You want them to be able to close out series and win games when the sun is out, and they just haven't been able to do that. So hopefully, as we move forward, this won't continue as a trend, because like I said, we laid out some things that have been, very concerning. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it as the Braves get ready to take on the Phillies. Now, coming up next, Trey Young, ESPN. We know how this marriage has been in the past. We'll talk about the rankings, whether it's too high, too low, or too slow. I know that don't make sense, but we're going to figure it out next. But before we do that, T, got to talk about our folks at BetOnline.net. And if you're thinking about, as the Hawks get ready and get amped up for the training camp and get ready for the first regular season game in mid-October, against the Houston Rockets, this is something that you have to keep an eye on, right? You want to try to win some money, because you can win some big money on this NBA. 82 games,
Right.
They get ready, they can do their thing. So go to betonline.net, because this is continues to be the top online source for all sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. You talking about podcasts, you guys check us out for information about Atlanta sports. Go ahead and check out betonline.net for all of the sports betting and information you'll need. So here's what you do. Head to BetOnline today, or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today, because BetOnline is where the game starts.
Yes. And the game starts and ends right here in the A with Trae Young. So it's still kind of sort of list season, right? So we can keep, especially as we're leading up to training camp, which of course starts for the Hawks Monday. So yesterday we kind of reacted to the CBS list, and particularly kind of drilled down on where Trae Young fell. And we felt for the most part he was right where he needed to be, right around that 14 mark, right? Yeah, because you got Ja Morant sandwiching on one side, and then you've got Damian Lillard on the other. Now, with this list, ESPN released yesterday, and we are sure there will be at least another 2 or 3 before even training camp starts. They have Trae Young ranked at number 16, and it's interesting because yesterday's list was kind of all over the place, and they acknowledged it. They said they had 6 voters, and not one of them came up with the exact same list. But here, it doesn't kind of give you the same criteria, right? So it tells you there's one huge question for that player and that team, and then it might give you, in most instances, and I'll read this one to you. It literally will tell you, Jarvis, like a swing skill, so to speak, if they're speaking of, a 3 or a 4 like Jimmy Butler. But when they're speaking of Trae at the point position, he did move up a notch. They had him at 17 last year. They have him at 16 this year. But they're saying, the funny thing is, they're talking about a game to watch when it comes to him and what the huge question is. So I'll give you those 2, and let's hear your thoughts on it. They're thinking that the biggest game of the year is December 7th at New York, because of course Trae loves to play in the Garden, and that's where he's going to do his thing and just really, really shine. Plus, he missed that game last year on Christmas Day because, of course, the health and safety protocols with COVID. And so we want to see if that's going to be the game where he just breaks out. And I thought about it. I said, actually, that might not be a bad guess, because by then he and DeJounte Murray would have really, really gelled, because they would have had almost 2 months to kind of get that backcourt together and get their rhythm and flow together. And speaking of that, Jarvis, that was the huge question. how will DeJounte Murray's presence help or impact what Trey Young's able to do?
I think it's going to have a big impact, and I think that is potentially could be one of the better backcourts in the NBA. Yeah, I said that. I'm going to go ahead and I'll lay it out on the line. I don't mind. Y'all come at me if you want. I don't care, because that's one of the things that we said that that the Hawks needed. So what did we say? Okay, what did we say coming in that the Hawks needed going into the offseason? They needed somebody that can have a off ball, somebody who can help Trey play off ball, and obviously that person needs to be able to handle the rock. DeJounte Murray, check. He can do that. And then they talk about somebody who can be a better defender to kind of help with Trey, and his defensive deficiencies. Check. DeJounte Murray is one of the better wing defenders in the entire NBA. Yeah, so and I think that from a scoring standpoint, when Trey's not in the game, he feels that void as well. So as a distributor and making sure everybody gets the rock and maybe running the pick and roll with John Collins or Clint Capella, whoever, or Yuka Okongwu, who I always forget, and I'm glad. I'm happy patting myself on the back. Did I mention it? Right. Double O. So
you remember double O.
So when all those names I just mentioned, now we talking about a team that's pretty doggone deep, because when you have Bogdanovich, a guy who's slated to come off the bench, he gets named in getting the rankings as well. So these like the Hawks are not a team that doesn't need to be talked about. And I think that when you have all these pieces surrounding Trey Young, and we already know what he can do when he has to do it, mostly himself. But when he has a guy like DeJounte coming into the equation, I think that we're going to see some things that we haven't seen with this team before. And I think that, I think everybody's game is going to get elevated a little bit or benefit from DeJounte Murray and Trey Young. And a guy that needs that help, DeAndre Hunter.
Yes.
If he comes close to what we've seen consistently, like I'm not even talking about the max. I'm talking about against the Miami Heat. We don't have to see that. If we can get to at least get close to what we saw in that Miami Heat game in the playoffs, like the Hawks are going to be super uber dangerous.
Yes. And we have seen enough from the Hawks, enough from the Celtics, enough from the Heat to know that it is important to have an actual point guard. It is important to have a pure point guard, because at some point the inability to have a ball handler is going to show, for lack of a better term, it's going to rear its ugly head. So to be able to have two ball handlers and then someone like DeJounte who's excited about defense, I'm excited about that. And I do believe that also Trey Young has taken the challenge, so to speak, about the criticism about not being able to play off the ball. So I believe that he has been working on that skill this summer, and we're going to see some positive things there. And also, Jarvis, yesterday we talked about the fact that when you look at the players who were kind of surrounding him in the rankings, which CBS Sports gave us the entire 100 right out of the gate, right? ESPN gives you every 10. So right now we're only able to react to, we're only able to react to 11 through 20. And within that space, with Trey being 16, you also saw Damian Lillard just ahead of him, Ja Morant just ahead of him, and James Harden as well. That was what we saw yesterday. So I feel like this list is still very much accurate in terms of where he falls in the pantheon, and him even having a ranking higher than what they ranked him last year. But I believe that when we get to the end of this season, I would not be surprised if we're having a conversation about him being in everybody's top 10 list of 100 players in the NBA. And speaking of top 10, whether it's top 10, top 5, or number 1, CoffeeAM, that's who they are. Right here in our backyards in the Atlanta metro area. So today, another one of those rough and tumble traffic days in Atlanta. So you know it. If you wake up and you have breath in your lungs, that also probably means they've got traffic on the streets here in Atlanta. Need coffee.
Yes, Lord.
Gonna need it. Gonna need something that is as fresh as the day you order it, because literally you order it and that's when they're literally churning away and getting it to you. So same day, close to it, that's when it's being roasted. It's current crop. It's specialty grade. Jarvis tells you all the time about some of the great coffees that he's tried around the world, from around the world, and he even enjoys the K-Cup immensely. So if you're asking how you can get your hands on this. Let me tell you, it's really simple. CoffeeAM.com/locked on. You can go there today, of course, after you finish checking out our show, and you can
Yes.
let us know. Why don't you tell us in the comments? You tell us about some of our sports topics. Tell us how you like Coffee AM, and we can tell that to our partners at Coffee AM because we think you'll give them a 5-star review as well. So again, go there, and on your first order of coffeeam.com/locked on, you'll get 15% off. And why not support a great local business? CoffeeAM.com/locked on for your 15% off for the best small batch roaster in the country.
Yes, go ahead and check that bad boy out because, I get my day started each and every day. And we thank you for rocking with us throughout the entire show because, hey, this is ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. We are running, sprinting towards 4,000 subscribers. Really appreciate you guys for liking and subscribing to our show. If you have not done that and you're listening to us or watching us on Roku or Amazon Fire, yes, we are on those platforms, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and drop us a comment on wherever you download your podcast. 5-star reviews. That's all we're worth. That's what we ask and that's what we're worth. But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. Sometimes what the hell we want to talk about because that's just how we get down. Today is no different, T, because I get up early in the morning and I got up a little bit more early, if that's the King's English.
Earlier.
Early. I got up earlier. Yeah, that'll work. I got up earlier this morning, and I was scrolling through my Twitter timeline, because you know how it is when you can't sleep, and I came across this story. Woj had the little breaking news and had the nice little, template and everything, a picture going across the line, and I saw a picture of Ime Udoka, and I was just like, all right, what's going on here? And apparently, Ime Udoka is likely facing a suspension for the entire 2022-23 season for his role in a consensual relationship with a female staff member, sources tell ESPN. A formal announcement is expected as soon as today. Now, T, as more reports start coming out, we started to figure out that it was a female staffer that he was dealing with or had these dealings with, and it got to be a pretty big deal if you're talking about he's facing a year-long suspension.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know, T. Like, what are your initial thoughts when we came across this story?
Well, let's take a step back because I got the notification from Woj last night, right before I went to sleep. And when I saw specific words that said it would be basically disciplinary action for inappropriate conduct, I'm like, that ninja doing something on Nia Long? Like, yeah.
First thing came to mind, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you cheating on your wife. Like,
exactly.
Yeah,
like I
something
totally
going on.
never, right. And some of my colleagues at my other job were like, oh, wow. I wonder if maybe there was some tampering when they were trying to recruit a player. Oh, I never thought that. Ever.
What?
Ever. I knew
All right.
exactly what it was. And just like that, the internets and Black Twitter made sure we
Undefeated.
knew who was creeping with Nia Long's husband, because that's how we look at him. I mean, you're Ime Udoka, and I mean, you're solid coach and all that, but really, the culture looks at you like you're Nia Long's husband. And of course, that was the next question from everybody. Who in the heck cheats on our girl Nia Long? Like, what
Right,
is
exactly.
wrong with you? She is Nia Long. Did you not see her go off in the Touch the Sky video for Kanye West? She told you who she was.
Right.
And now you want to bring that Nia back out? I mean, man. But and of course, what I do want to say is this. And this is just me being honest. A couple things. First of all, let's just give Nia her space, because this I'm sure this is something that she already knew about, because I'm sure he had to break the news to her before Woj broke it to the world. But now she's having to relive this all over again from the moment that she found out. So let's give her space on how she needs to figure out how to manage her family going forward, because they do have a child together. And by the way, they're common law. They're not legally married, but they're common law. They've been together forever.
Partnership.
He has raised her child since he was pretty much a toddler. So that has been a family unit for quite some time. And we respect whatever decision it is that she makes with her life. That's part one. Part two is go after the right person, because I find it very interesting that Twitter has gone after the alleged other woman and shown different pictures of her and kind of dug into who she is. She's not in the union with Nia Long. She wasn't in a common law marriage with Nia Long. Ime Udoka was. He is the one who made the decision to break that covenant. So I just wanted to say that because that has nothing to do with sports. That has everything to do with how we are quick to vilify the woman in the situation. She's not married to Nia Long. She doesn't have kids with Nia Long. That was his choice that he made to sacrifice or sabotage his family, so his personal and his professional. And so I'm looking at him like, and I used to pass him in the halls working with the Hawks when, the Celtics were visiting, and
Right.
just seemed like his demeanor just seemed like a stand-up guy, if you will.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure I probably passed her as well and had no clue what in the world was going on just down the hallway at the visitors' locker room. Man,
No.
and if you think about it, the Celtics were already a clusterfuffle on the court trying to figure out how in the heck they could make the Tatum Brown tandem work. Now you're adding this onto a team that many people thought was like the heir apparent contender to really get to the finals next season. Very, very
Yeah.
interesting that you would sacrifice all of that for what?
Yeah, for what? And
Good.
indeed, and then we talk about victims in this particular case, right? Let's talk about this, and this is literally just came down not too long ago. I got Mark Spears of ESPN, and he just tweeted out that for those speculating and curious about the Celtics situation, Vice President of Player Development or Organizational Growth,
Hmm.
Allison Feaster is not involved in it because a lot of her pictures will start circulating around on Twitter, and people are
Hmm.
saying that some of that vitriol start going towards her way. Y'all
Hmm.
need to back up because Mark Spears is probably one of the more credible guys
Yes.
that I've met through one of the more credible guys that I ever know, and that's our
Mhm.
guy Arthur Trish. So,
Yes.
I think that this is something that, as more information comes out, I think it's going
Hmm.
to be something that, we definitely going to have to keep an eye on. But I
Hmm.
think people not just need to fall back a little bit, calm
Yeah.
down, and let's figure this thing out because, just think about it. Think about the magnitude of this, right? You
Yeah.
got a guy in his first year as a head coach, take a team to the NBA Finals who haven't been there since 2010. They
Yes.
haven't been to the finals, and you get into a situation where you're facing a year-long suspension. Like,
Yeah.
it has to be something big. Like, it has to
Yeah.
be just bigger than messing around with a female employee.
Hmm.
You talking about acts maybe being performed where they aren't
Well,
supposed to be
there you go.
performed.
Yes. It
I
could be
think
on the
that's what
road, in the facility.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There
It's
was some
something more
violation.
to this.
Yeah.
Yes,
There were
it's a
absolutely.
super
Yeah.
super uber violation, and I think that the Celtics are going to have to figure out whether or not they're willing to deal with all this tea. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something that we're going to continue to rock with and find out and figure out. And then when those details run out, we'll definitely be
Hmm.
talking about them right here on ATL Day Ones. T.
Yeah. Because we have to. I mean, that is legitimately a team that the Hawks were competitive with last year. And I suspect that that would have been one of their main competitors for them, like the road back to the Eastern Conference Finals. So you're looking at that team and you're looking at that organization and how this is going to impact them. And yes, we understand that they'll have an interim coach in place, someone who's been with the team and with the organization who's familiar with the players. We get that. But these are those types of quirky situations, just like we're seeing coming out of Phoenix, right? And how is
Mm-hmm.
that going to impact the Suns? That's a team that has had some implosions and have not been able to get over the hump to get to the NBA Finals. It'll be interesting to see, to your point, the trickle down effect of just how many people this impacts. Because for the organization to be considering a year long suspension, I feel like there are going to be more names that are going to come out, people who are complicit in
Mm-hmm.
this situation.
Who
And
cooperated?
yeah, yep. That's why I said complicit in the situation.
Yes, yes,
And
Lord.
they literally there will. I feel like heads will roll. But another thing that will make heads roll, at least here on ATL Day Ones, is if the Braves take an L in Philly tonight. They are on the road, back on the road for a 7-game road trip that starts in Philly and ends in the district. So we will be following that. We hope that Max Fried can pull this thing out against Ranger Suarez tonight. And of course, tomorrow, what else are we going to talk about but Falcons? The Falcons are going to try to put
Big
the
preview.
first dub of the year. So yes, we are going to preview and talk Falcons tomorrow, and anything else that comes up in the Atlanta sports world, we got you covered. But not just us, of course. A to Z with Mark Zeno has you covered as well. So you guys take care. And as always, think before you act, because there could be some consequences that you can't come back from. We'll see you tomorrow.
Y'all come back now, you hear?